Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I want to talk about why the shorts are desperate for your AMC shares. I want to talk about why the narrative of selling AMC simply doesn't make sense and what happens every single day that you don't sell. So stay tuned and let's make some money. And now I want to dive straight in with the key information. So I want to start with some very basic market mechanics and then talk about why the shorts are desperate for you to sell your shares and why selling AMC simply doesn't make sense. So for every seller, there must be a buyer, and for every buyer, there must be a seller. If you're selling your AMC shares, there must be a buyer on the other end to buy them from you. And if you're buying AMC shares, there must be somebody on the other end to sell them to you, or to short those shares, or to create them out of nothing and sell them to you. So therefore, if the mainstream media is telling you to sell your shares, who exactly would you be selling your shares to? So the witching hour is posted saying, I see all of this pressure on retail investors to sell their GameStop and to sell their AMC shares. But who exactly should we be selling to? Obviously, the mainstream media says that everybody should sell their AMC shares. Should retail be selling to institutions? But why would institutions buy AMC if they think it's such a terrible investment? It makes no sense. Should retail investors be selling to other retail investors? But again, that doesn't really make sense either, as the mainstream media says every retail investor and everyone should sell their AMC shares. And therefore the witching hour has said, I'm really confused who exactly the mainstream media is saying is this mysterious buyer. If AMC is so terrible, why would anyone want to buy AMC shares? But he says, oh wait, I know, it's the short sellers who are absolutely desperate to buy our shares at a discount and to try and avoid the squeeze. And he said, if you are being pressured and gaslit into selling something, it means you hold something valuable that somebody else needs. He said, nobody is going to pressure you to sell garbage. Obviously, if the mainstream media is saying that you should sell your AMC shares, obviously you have to sell your AMC shares to somebody else, and therefore there's somebody out there that needs to buy AMC. But if the mainstream media is saying that retail investors should sell their AMC, clearly it's the institutions currently shorting AMC that need to buy them from you. As such, it makes no sense to sell your AMC shares right now before the squeeze because these shorts are desperate to buy your shares at a discount and avoid the squeeze. And as Peter Hanna's tweeted, he said, Yo Ape Shorts, I can't fathom how you expect people to sell at these prices. Barcoding at $6 per share seems lame. If I had been running your operations, I would have gotten YouTubers to price anchor Ape at some higher price. But no, you pushed immediate sales. Everything about your game is sloppy. These shorts are obviously trying to convince us to sell our shares as cheap as we possibly can, down below $10 per share, but what they don't understand is that we aren't selling and we know the squeeze is going to happen. They're trying to convince us to sell cheap so they can buy up these billions of AMC shares at a massive discount and only lose a few $100 million, rather than be squeezed and lose trillions. The bullish ape has posted a very interesting screenshot of exactly what happens every single day when you don't sell your shares. Now on the face of this screenshot, it shows at the start of the day the shorts were either covering or purposefully pushing the price up, but by the end of the day they'd started shorting more shares and manipulating the price back down. But what this screenshot really shows is something much more interesting. We can see at the start of the day and at the end of the day that by the end of the day, even though the shorts had manipulated the price was higher than what it started. Therefore, as an example, when the shorts cover or pump up the price by 10 million shares, but then short 10 million shares at the end of the day, it actually makes less impact. Therefore, every single day that the shorts manipulate AMC, Ape and GameStop, it progressively gets less and less effective for them and we get closer and closer to winning. And he said it's literally back to square one for the shorts, nothing but digging the hole deeper as we climb to a new all-time high. He said this tells me we're super close. And I think the AMC chart really shows exactly that. Since the start of May, the AMC price has been creeping progressively higher practically every single day. Guys, if you haven't already, be sure to sign up to Moomoo right now using the link in the description below. Moomoo is currently giving away 13 free stocks, which is the most free stocks that Moomoo has ever given away, up to a whopping total of $26,000. Moomoo is very easy to use, it's incredibly customizable, they've got tons of technical indicators and advanced charting tools. From Moomoo's latest customer agreement, they officially state they do not sell your order flow to market makers like Citadel. Therefore, Moomoo is brilliant for buying those AMC, those GameStop and those Ape shares. But on a micro scale, every few days we can see the shorts manipulate the price up and then back down. They manipulate it back up again and push it back down. Again, the same thing happened in August. They pushed the price up, almost potentially causing a run up, but then pushed the price back down. This is obviously their plan to try and convince you to sell your shares. They fake pump the stock every few days and then push it back down for the next few days. But we can see that every single day the shorts do this, it progressively works less and less for them every single day. Over the last few months, the price of AMC has definitely been running up. For example, let's imagine over the last few months, the shorts have spent $1 billion manipulating the price of AMC back up and $1 billion pushing the price back down. But it's had less impact every day, and therefore they've only managed to push the price back down to $8, but not down to $6 again. However, like we saw back in March, sometimes the shorts decide to use $1 billion to push the price up, but then use $2 or $3 billion to try and push the price back down to create new lows. But all this really does for the hedgies is dig themselves a deeper hole, as they're having to spend more and more money every single time to push the price of AMC down and create new lows. Obviously, it's doing nothing for them, as AMC investors aren't selling their shares. We're holding our shares as we know the squeeze is coming. On top of knowing the AMC squeeze is coming, we also know that mainstream media representatives from companies like Wedbush Securities have previously been fined for aggressive naked shorting. We know they are naked shorting AMC, but we know we will win and we will squeeze these shorts. Crystal Ball tweeted saying in 2016, Wedbush Securities was fined $675,000 for chronic fails to deliver. This naked redemption activity, along with short selling of the ETFs on the secondary market by scalp trading, resulted in substantial repeated fails to deliver by Wedbush. Wedbush is one of those same firms that have been bashing AMC on the mainstream media practically every single day. And he said, golly gee, I wonder if they're doing the same naked shorting with AMC as well. But obviously we know that funds like Wedbush Securities have indeed been naked shorting AMC. We know they've been manipulating the price down, but we also know they won't win. And I also wanted to touch on today's CPI inflation print, reverse repos, because that's something we haven't touched on for a while, and the wider market. Looking first at the reverse repo facility, we can see that reverse repos have maintained above $2 trillion for some time now. We can see that since about April of 2021, the reverse repo facility was increasing fairly gradually. It did dip, but never too much, and was progressively increasing all the way until around June of 2022. But since June, so for around 3 months, the reverse repo facility has maintained pretty much exactly flat around $2 trillion. I do think this $2.2 trillion is pretty much the ceiling for the reverse repos, and if the RRP facility gets much higher than that, I do think everything will start to implode. And speaking of imploding, CPI or inflation today was expected to be around 8.1%, but it actually came in higher than expected at 8.3%, while it is slightly lower in July's 8.5%. It's obviously bad that inflation came in higher than expected, and it shows that inflation is still not decreasing as fast as the Fed wants it to. And I think this tweet from Stonks Batman really shows just how bad inflation is right now. He said the articles that are coming out about inflation are mind-boggling and disturbing. And he said inflation numbers down. We had 5.3% last year in August, and that's not a normal amount. We haven't seen 5% since 2008 prior to that, and we're trying to water down an 8.3% on top of the 5.3% from last year. Inflation is supposed to run around 2% per year, so over a 2-year period we should have 4% inflation, but over the last 2 years we've had nearly 14% inflation. And he said as a note, things aren't becoming cheaper just because the number comes down month on month. The only way things get cheaper is if we see a negative inflation rate such as we did in 2009. So therefore prices on the whole aren't actually falling at 8.3% even though it's lower than 8.6. We'd need to see a negative percentage like negative 2.1 or negative 1.3 to actually see prices falling on the whole. But obviously right now inflation is nowhere close to negative 2.1% as it's all the way up at 8.3. He said obviously we do have an economic bubble that needs to pop in order for that to actually happen. And on top of that, Moon Overlord has tweeted what he thinks is one of the most bearish charts out there right now. He said personal bank account savings levels are down to around 2008 recession levels. We can see that back in 20, the personal savings rate shot up and it rocketed up, but right now this personal savings rate is all the way down at 2008 levels, just before the recession. Right now, the average American is only saving 5% of their take-home pay, which is the lowest rate seen since 2008. And he said people are not buying stocks, crypto, NFTs or any other risk asset when they don't have the money for rent or food. It's that simple. So not only is inflation higher than expected, not only is the savings rate down, but on top of that, Goldman Sachs are also preparing for layoffs as deal making has been slowing. It says Goldman Sachs is preparing for a round of layoffs that could come as soon as next week. The job cuts will affect employees across the company, according to the People. It says the move comes as the Federal Reserve's effort to tame inflation by raising rates has cooled deal making and raised concerns that the US economy will tip into a recession. And Goldman reported in July that its second quarter profit had dropped nearly 50% from a year earlier to just under $3 billion. And revenue from Goldman Sachs' investment banking division fell 41% from the same period in 2021. Clearly, deal makers on the whole are struggling, especially Goldman Sachs, with their profits down nearly 50%. They obviously need to start cutting costs and cutting staff before they become loss-making. And Goldman's CEO, David Solomon, has said there is no question that the market has gotten more challenging. Clearly, these shorts and these major banks and these large institutions are becoming more and more desperate to buy our AMC shares on the cheap to avoid the squeeze before the recession hits. Because obviously if the recession hits and their funds end up being liquidated during a stock market crash, they will be forced to buy back their short positions to close out of their shorts. And obviously if these funds are buying back hundreds of millions, if not billions of AMC shares, that will cause the squeeze. But guys, be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below. And as always guys, be sure to ding that notification bell, because that way you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers.